Good morning, respectively, good afternoon to those from Japan. Thanks a lot for joining our webcast today. In our bilingual webcast today, we will look at the background of Pillar 2, the German Pillar 2 regulations, and especially practical implications to your company. We will demonstrate how the combination of your local team, Deloitte Pillar 2 Technology, and our specialists can increase flexibility and quality in this dynamic environment. Please kindly note that this webcast will be recorded, but no personal data will be stored. The record, as well as the slides, will be shared afterwards. Should there be any questions from your side, you can share these via the Q&A function, or of course, please also feel free to reach out to us afterwards. Let us briefly introduce ourselves. My name is Iris Mönnig, and I'm an international tax partner with Deloitte based in Düsseldorf, and I'm leading our Deloitte Japanese Services Group for Tax. Also with me here today is Asagi from my team. And Asagi, please kindly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Iris. Welcome to our webcast Pillar 2. 本日はお忙しい中お集まりいただきましてありがとうございます。My name is Asagi Hino. I am a senior manager in Business Tax International Tax Team and located in Frankfurt. I will be responsible for a short summary in Japanese language during this webcast. Would you like to continue, Daniela?
Hello, everyone. I'm Daniela Kalwarowski, a manager at the Deloitte office in Munich, part of the tax technology consulting team, and I'm working on tax automation, and I'm happy to join today. So, giving the word to Niels.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Niels Irmert. I'm a tax technology partner based in Düsseldorf and focusing on the implementation and advisory in the context of the global minimum taxation, or also called Pillar 2. And I have the honor to start the webcast with a short overview on the regulatory framework in Germany, and then explaining a bit the special QDMTT regime, which is implemented in Germany, and also give you a certain flavor of how to handle that compliance burden from a German perspective, as well inbound also and outbound. Before we jump into the details, I would like to start with a short overview of the regulatory framework of Pillar 2 in Germany. Yeah, so if we jump into directly into the details, you see, and I think you're all aware of that, that Germany has implemented Pillar 2, and compared to other countries, Germany sticks very near to the OECD rules or the OECD commentary, and it was set into force in mid of December 23, basically. Germany has also introduced a qualified domestic minimum top-up tax, which basically means that Germany has the right to levy any top-up tax that's due in Germany, and also income inclusion rule according to the OECD standards, and currently also the UTPR. We will see how that will develop. However, in a nutshell, so the German regulatory framework, you see that on that slide below. That was quite a challenge, the implementation, and we are now in the steps coming from the initial implementation more into the compliance setup. What we do not have so far is a concrete data scheme from the German Federal Tax Office. We do expect that the German Federal Tax Office, so the BZST, that's the abbreviation in Germany, will implement, I would say, 90% or 99% of the issued OECD or published OECD data scheme. Yeah, so we have seen that in the past with DSC6 or also a CBCR, that basically the German financial authorities typically stick to the OECD publication. That is for practical reason, because there's no need basically to have a very localized data scheme. However, it is not finalized, and sorry, therefore we cannot give you right now the final data scheme, but our working assumption basically is that it will be near to what the OECD has published in mid of January this year. Yeah, again, there is not a commentary issued from the German financial authorities. However, we do expect that there might come up something in this year or next year. Currently, due to a governmental change, there were new elections beginning of this year. Currently, not all of the administrative guidances issued by the OECD are set into force in Germany. Yeah, so we are around mid of 23, so calendar year 23. So there are 2 or 3 administrative guidances missing currently in the German legislation. However, we do expect that when the first declaration becomes due, yeah, you see that on the bottom right, basically. So it's mid of 26. Yeah, if the financial year meets the calendar year, probably in your case, it will be then end of September next year due to the deviating financial year. Yeah, there will be all administrative guidances also set into German law. And so we do not expect that Germany will deviate from the OECD standard. However, due to that political change, we do have some kind of a time lag, yeah, in the implementation. So in a nutshell, Germany is very near to the OECD, which makes it easy, but also complex, yeah, because we have to comply with all of the OECD standards and the administrative guidances. One thing I would like to focus a bit on today is on the next slide, basically, the update issued mid of January this year. Yeah, so we have depicted on that slide here the update. Yeah, you see on the left, so it's number 1. Yeah, the first draft of the GloBE information return, which has to be filed at headquarter level, so at UPE level, yeah, using the OECD wording for that. So there were some updates, yeah, especially in terms of the data point descriptions. Yeah, you see that here marked green with an update. We also have Annex or Appendix B and C, which were new added to that OECD publication, to the administrative guidance. And you see on the right, basically, that's what I said before, that the information return XML scheme was in a near final version published, and also a user guidance for tax administrations. As I said, we do expect that the German government will implement this, yeah, as it was published by the OECD. However, we do not have a clear guidance right now. But our working assumption is that this will be very near to the OECD. What is also new is, you see that on the bottom right, number 3, basically, there was published by the OECD a draft agreement, yeah, for exchanging information. Yeah, so that is one requirement, basically, that you can file the GloBE information return only in one country. In the European Union, that was already set into a law by the DAC 9 directive. Yeah, it was in April 14, basically. So that condition is already met in the European Union, and you know that Germany is part of it, and also it will be then implemented into local law. However, due to the governmental change in Germany, I think it's not set into force right now, but it will be in the near future. Yeah, so that means from an inbound perspective, basically, that in the European Union, according to the DAC 9 directive, you can file the GloBE information return only in one European country. However, we do expect that all the countries implementing the Pillar 2 rules will also implement those information exchange agreements. So that's as a consequence out of it, yeah, we do expect that mid or end of next year, when the declarations become due, yeah, it will be only necessary to file the declaration in the GloBE information return in one country, yeah, presumably in the headquarter country. Yeah, however, we have to wait a bit so that these information exchange agreements, will be set into place in every country. What does that now mean? Yeah, so this is the regulatory framework, yeah, as an introduction. So if we go a bit more into the detail, there was quite a big change in the January administrative guidance. So we have depicted on the next slide here some kind of a pattern how that works. So as you see on the left, the presentation in the GloBE information return before that administrative guidance. In our small example, you see here the UPE is based in Japan, and then that UPE or the headquarter basically has subsidiaries in the US, in Switzerland, Germany, and Poland. And before that administrative guidance it was not quite clear how to handle any QDMTT data in the information return that has to be filed in probably Japan. So there you see the small question mark in Switzerland and Poland. So we've chosen Switzerland and Poland for one reason, because though their rules foresee that either mandatory or not, depending a bit on the circumstances in the country, the QDMTT calculation is based on local GAAP. So Germany here, as I said, is very near to the OECD standard. So in Germany, the QDMTT is based on group financial accounting standards, which is probably in most cases IFRS. Maybe also US GAAP, in terms of US headquarter, but in here I would say in 80 or 90% of the cases it's IFRS. So QDMTT calculation in Germany is also based on IFRS figures. However, Switzerland and Poland, it was not quite clear. What now has changed, you see that on the right side of that slide basically is that beginning with that administrative guidance published in the mid of January this year, those countries which foresee a QDMTT calculation based on local GAAP figures are to be included in the Japanese information return with those figures, which as a consequence means there is a mixture of IFRS figures, but also local GAAP figures. So that's, I would say, was a bit of a surprise. I think it makes sense, because it goes a bit into the direction that the OECD has shifted from a very centralized approach to a more decentralized approach, giving the countries a bit more power to implement the Pillar 2 rules. However, from a technological perspective means that you have to handle different data, because there's not a consistent IFRS data, you have in your group, but it's there is local GAAP data, but in other countries, for example, Germany, you have to stick to IFRS data. So therefore it makes it a bit more complex from our experience in terms of the technological or technical implementation, because you have to handle different data standards, also different gaps in it, and you have to some kind of a backward channel, because those data which are included in the GloBE information return at Japanese or Japan UPE level are to be also included maybe in local returns. So therefore it's some back and forth of the data which is necessary for Pillar 2, and you have to deal with probably, at least in Switzerland and Poland, with different gaps. So therefore it's kind of a bit of more complex, and that's something I would like to emphasize a bit today, but we will also show you a technological solution which is capable of handling that. But that please keep that in mind. That's from our perspective a major change mid of January this year, which is some kind of a shift, which was proposed by the OECD, and we do expect that this will be also implemented in most of the countries. At least our expectation is that it will be implemented in Germany. So what does that actually mean for local compliance? So on the next slide, we have shown you a short overview, because I was until now concentrating on the GloBE information return, which is due in Japan. There you have to include German data, Swiss data, Polish data. But in addition to that, that's here on the right side of that slide. Basically, there's also, as I said, a local compliance obligation, for any entity that is part of a multinational entity group, which is subject to Pillar 2, to comply with the QDMTT requirements. So Germany has implemented, as I said, a qualified domestic minimum top-up tax, but has also implemented a local declaration obligation. So that means even though you file the GloBE information return in Japan, for example, and in any other European country, there is beside that the obligation to comply with the local QDMTT standard in Germany. As I said, GAAP is IFRS, so group accounting standard. So in most cases IFRS, but it is necessary to file that German minimum tax return to comply with the German obligation. On the left on that slide, you see that from a headquarter perspective. So in the case you file the information return to the German Federal Central Tax Office. So there are some circumstances maybe not so relevant for you, but we want to give you a full picture. Therefore, we have included that on the slide. However, I think in most of your cases, you will probably file that in Japan. And then there's the additional German minimum tax return due. To make it a bit more practical, the German government has issued already the return drafts, and we've brought them with us on the next slide. Sorry for that; they are only issued in the German language. However, we do have a convenient translation into Japan on the next page. And it's just some kind to give you a certain flavor of what does it look like in the future. So Germany has chosen a very simplified approach. You see that in the green box on the right and on the bottom left, basically, that you only include the results in the German QDMTT return, which are calculated probably at headquarter level or at an interim level. So there's not currently status, it's only the draft, as I said. It's not necessary compared to other countries like Belgium, for example, to make intensive local calculation. So Germany has decided to implement an approach which is quite lean, honestly. However, it is important to know that those returns are due in Germany. The deadline is the same as it is for the GloBE information return, so mid of next year or end of September next year, depending on the financial year. But again, it's necessary, and I think that's the biggest challenge, to calculate the data at headquarter level, put it into the German tax return, and then file it to be compliant in Germany. So that was some kind of an overview, and then I would like to hand over to Asagi for the translation.
Thank you, Niels. それではこれまでのところ日本語にて説明させていただければと思います。ご存知の通り、これまで2年間の間 OECD、EU、そして各国の法令において世界中で議論されてきたピラー2グローバルミニマム課税ですが、これはこれまでの課税システムの枠組みを超えた全く新しい税種目であり課税システムです。年間の総売上が750ミリオンユーロを超える多国籍企業が対象となっており、所得合算ルール IIR、軽課税所得ルール UTPR、国内ミニマム課税 QDMTT など、いくつかのトップアップ課税のためのルールを含んでいます。ピラー2申告に必要な情報は、通常日本の親会社により各国の構成事業体に共有される必要があります。構成事業体という言葉を使わせていただいておりますのは、法人にのみに限らず、ドイツに所在する支店もまたピラー2の対象となるためです。究極の親会社との情報のやり取りという観点から重要なアップデートが2025年1月15日に OECD により公表された運営方針によってなされました。特に第 8.1.4 条及び 8.1.5 条に関する指針においては、GloBE情報申告書 GIR の記載において依拠する基準等について明確化されています。GIR のデータポイントは原則的に GloBEモデルルール及びコメンタリーに基づく単一の情報リソースに基づく必要があります。モデルルールと現地の国内法に差異がある場合は、多国籍企業グループは当該差異について税務当局に報告する必要があります。税務当局は差異に関するさらなる情報を求めることができるとしています。これによって企業側では追加の作業が必要となる可能性があり、このような差異の影響を報告すべき国の有無についての検討が必要となってきます。また、暫定的な適格資格を有する各国の国内法令に関するリスト、セントラルリコードオブレジスレーション with Transitional Qualified Status によって、これまで QDMTT セーフハーバーの適用が可能とされていなかった国に対しても適用性を有することが公表されました。このセントラルリコード、つまり中央記録によって、適格 IIR 国地域として27国、QDMTT 及び QDMTT セーフハーバー国地域として28国が公表されています。 なお、ある国の法令が中央記録に含まれていないことは、例えばポーランドがこれに含まれていないんですけれども、当該法令が適格ではないということを意味するものではなく、公表日現在において当該法令について暫定的な適格資格プロセスにかかる手続きがまだ開始されていないか、あとは完了していないということを示しています。ドイツを含む多くの国がすでに申告書ドラフトや申告手続きに関するインターフェースを定義し、公表しています。ドイツのピラー2における重要なコンプライアンス義務は、1、グループリーダーに関する事前通知、2、最低課税額通知、インフォメーションリターンですね。3、最低課税額申告、ミニマムタックスリターンの3つの種類があります。まず1つ目の国内グループリーダーに関する通知ですが、これは2月末を期日として連邦税務署に提出する必要があります。ピラー2に関する申告は、ドイツに所在する支店及び法人等の中から1社が代表してまとめて提出する必要があり、どの会社もしくは支店が申告義務を負うグループリーダーと見なされるのかにつき、事前に決める必要があります。これはドイツ現地法人が1社の場合や複数のドイツ法人を取りまとめるホールディングカンパニーがドイツにある場合は比較的容易と思われますが、ドイツ法人や支店が複数あったり、それらが直接の親子関係やレポーティングラインにない場合は特に難しい場合もあると思います。期日に関して究極の親会社の会計年度が歴年とずれる場合の申告期限は2026年2月28日です。究極の親会社の会計年度が歴年の場合の通知期限は2025年2月28日でした。これは子会社の会計年度ではなく、究極の親会社の会計年度が関係してきます。したがって、子会社が歴年の会計年度で、親会社が3月末決算の会社が多くあると思いますが、この場合のグループリーダーに関する事前の通知の提出期限は来年の2月末になります。2つ目のコンプライアンス義務、最低課税額通知インフォメーションリターンですが、管轄のローカル税務署ではなく、連邦税務署に対して電子提出をしていくことになります。その後、連邦税務署は管轄のローカル税務署に対して情報を共有します。3つ目のコンプライアンス義務は、低課税額申告書ミニマムタックスリターンになりますが、これはドイツがグループの親会社の場合に提出する申告書です。こちらは管轄のローカル税務署に対して提出します。そうですね。Danny, would you like to continue maybe on the previous page?
Yes, so thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, I'm not done yet.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I will just show the Japanese translation of the tax return. Would you like to go back to the previous page? One back, maybe? If it's possible. Thank you very much. そうですね、こちらご覧いただいているのが申告書の日本語訳になっておりますが、ご覧いただく通り、申告書に含めるべき情報量というのは実際それほど多いわけではありません。ただ、申告書に記載すべきいくつかの数字のために必要なデータを集めるためのプロセスは簡単ではないことがほとんどだとは思います。2つ目のインフォメーションリターンおよび3つ目のミニマムタックスリターンの期日は同じです。初年度の申告期限は当該会計年度の期日から18ヶ月。つまりですね、究極の親会社の会計年度が12月の場合は2026年6月末。究極の親会社の会計年度が3月末の場合は2026年9月になっていきます。2回目以降の申告の場合は会計年度の期日から15ヶ月以内の提出が必要となってきます。以上が日本語のサマリーとなります。Thank you very much. I am done with Japanese translation. I will go back. I will hand over back to Niels. Thank you.
Thank you, and sorry again for jumping in. Okay, so then I would like to proceed with more the technological view on it. Yeah, so we've just see here the second part of our webcast today is focusing on the Pillar 2 technology, and I would like to start with an overview where most of our clients are struggling a bit with, and that's That's basically the structure of the necessary data. Yeah, so the OECD has not only implemented a quite complex framework, but it's also very complex from a data perspective. Yeah, you see on the left, basically, there are different data sources necessary. Yeah, we do need data from the tax returns, from CVCR, but also from the ERP, from the consolidation system. We also need information in terms of which currencies are used, which data is in the reporting package, sorry, and so on. Yeah, so from our perspective, and also based on our experience when implementing a Pillar 2 technology, yeah, it's a very unstructured data that which we find at most of our clients. Yeah, so a Pillar 2 tool or a Pillar 2 technology, yeah, the main functionality which is needed basically is a certain way of structuring those data to get the data scheme that is necessary for the GloBE information return. Yeah, and that's you see on the right. Yeah, so it's some kind of a pattern basically. Yeah, and just to give you a certain feeling, so the data scheme has over 100 pages. Yeah, so it's quite an extensive. It will be an XML data scheme necessary. All of them will be electronically. Yeah, so there's no chance to file that on paper. Yeah, so therefore the structuring the data, yeah, either by a Pillar 2, a dedicated Pillar 2 tool, or via the consolidation system is necessary from our perspective. Yeah, so it's important to understand that the fragmented data must be transformed into a defragmented, integrated data scheme, yeah, to have the consistent basis for filing that GloBE information returned, and as a consequence, also the QDMTT returns. Because as I said, the German return does not foresee any calculation, which basically means, in a nutshell, you have to perform those calculations at any other level, yeah, or also at German level, but then you need, although the tax return is more simplified, yeah, but you need the supporting calculation to gather or to get the correct information. Yeah, you have to put into the German minimum tax return. One solution that we would like to present you today is the Deloitte Pillar 2 agent. Yeah, so you've seen here from an end-to-end perspective, basically going from the very fragmented Pillar 2 data sources to data extraction as the second step. Then we have a mapping, and then we directly jump into the Pillar 2 agent. Yeah, so here from an end-to-end perspective, where calculation, filing, but also reporting is done. The big advantage here is that our solution is capable of doing all the local Pillar 2 filings. Yeah, so it is capable of also handling that what I said right at the beginning. Yeah, if there is local gap necessary or required in one country, it also works. Yeah, and since we so I do like if we make it very practical, yeah, and therefore I would like to hand over to Daniela, and she will shortly introduce you to the software, but also give you a demonstration of that software to give you a good understanding how that solution can work and handle the Pillar 2 challenge. So Daniela, to you.
Right. Thank you, Niels. So please allow me to share some thoughts on an IT solution for OECD Pillar 2. So as Niels already described, we need different sources or different data that is stored probably in different sources. So sources need to be identified. The data extraction, most of the times data is not delivered in one format. So we have multiple formats that need to be mended into a mapping that goes into the solution. With our Pillar 2 agent, some of that data wrangling and mapping can be done automatically within the system. I'll jump into the software in a minute. And then this map data will be calculated for different scenarios. So as Niels already told you, also for different countries, there are different filings that need to be done that have different depths and complications. So without further, one more point. We will show you the Pillar 2 agent today, but of course, what software you will ultimately use is dependent on what environment you already have implemented. It is not an easy task most of the times to implement a new software or introduce a new software into your environment. So please make sure to plan enough time for your company and your colleagues to get acquainted also with the required steps. All right, let's jump into the system. All right, I hope you can see. This is the first interface of the Pillar 2 agent of Deloitte. I hope it is big enough. Let me just zoom in a little. We're gonna take a look at it from an HQ point of view. So we have an administration in which you can maintain your company's entities. And for Pillar 2, entities have also different types. So for example, we have POPIs or joint ventures that need to be considered differently within the calculation for Pillar 2. All this can be maintained here, as well as access control and so on. So these are basic functionalities that a software should be able to handle easily, but are of course very important, as some jurisdictions should not see what other jurisdictions are doing. For the purpose of the time, let's jump into one of the scenarios that the Pillar 2 agent delivers. So for you, most of the time, the compliance scenario will be of interest. So let's jump in. So to get an understanding on where you are at within the compliance part for the filings, the Pillar 2 agent delivers different kinds of dashboards where you can get a quick overview for your entities. For example, in here, this will just give you an idea which entities are ready for approval or how many of them are in draft and so on. And this can also be seen within the tracker. And in here, you can also filter for the entities that are ready for approval, for example, because of course you want to have an overview and get quickly from one point to another. Within the calculation, you will see that we have the global income, cover taxes tab, a top-up tax, and also payment overview. For the GloBE income, the view is on jurisdictional level. But of course, if you have multiple entities, you can open the tabs to get a better understanding on how those amounts are calculated or put together. Also, you will have a quick overview which entities, for example, do apply, or which jurisdictions apply QDMTT. So if we look in the top-up tax tab, you will see that we have an overview regarding what entities will, for example, be below the 15% mark. So there's going to be a top-up tax calculated. And depending on if this country is, for example, a QDMTT entity, it will deliver the calculation and divide it. So lots of the work that needs to be done for the calculation of Pillar 2 is already worked and is automated. All right. And in the payments, you can see what entities, for example, have top-up tax and where this top-up tax needs to be paid. All right. So this was a quick jump into the software. If you have any questions or want to see anything specific, there's going to be a question. All right. So handing over to Asagi again.
Thank you, Dani. それでは、2つ目のところについても日本語で説明させていただきたいと思います。ドイツの比較的高い税率を考慮しますと、ピラー2におけるトップアップタックスの影響はおそらくそんなに高くないと言えます。しかし、ピラー2における大きなチャレンジの一つは各国におけるコンプライアンス義務であり、またコンプライアンスのために正確なデータをタイムリーに収集し、管理し、申告書に含めるという点にあります。グループリーダーの通知一つをとっても、親会社からどの会社がドイツ国内のグループリーダーとなるべきなのかといった指示が明確にされないままといった悩みを抱えるドイツ現地法人の方も多いのではないかと思います。また、ドイツ国内のインフォメーションリターンやミニマムタックスリターンの準備の際に必要な情報は多岐にわたり、その情報収集は一つの組織内だけでは完結しないルールがほとんどです。また、究極の親会社の観点からも、例えばピラー2に関する現地の申告書が IFRS でなされるべきなのか、ローカルな会計基準でなされるべきなのかといった点を含め、各国の国内ルールには細かい違いがあることが多く、ピラー2は大きな悩みの種である会社さんも多いのではないかと思います。多くの企業がピラー2に関してトップアップ課税が生じるのかどうかという初期的なスタディをされているかとは思いますが、その中においてはそれほど重要とならなかった、どのように情報を集めるのかというところが今後のピラー2に関する実務の中で非常に重要となってきます。ピラー2コンプライアンスにおけるデータ要件を満たすためには、実際のデータ管理および情報提供のフローを確実に、そしてスムーズにする技術的なソリューションを利用することが推奨されます。弊社の提供するデロイトピラー2エージェントもその一つで、ピラー2における複雑なコンプライアンス義務に伴うデータ管理をサポートするためのツールです。どのようなソリューションがその企業にとってベストなのかということは、導入している ERP システム、どの国が含まれているのか、データ収集の経路はどうなっているのか、どのようなユーザーが各国にいるのか、またグループの親会社および各国の子会社を含むユーザーの好みによって左右されることとなります。ソフトウェアに関する検討や導入は時間のかかるプロセスです。ドイツでの最初のピラー2申告の提出までには比較的余裕はありますが、国によっては圧倒的に短い期日を設定している国もあります。そのため、できるだけ早くピラー2に関するシステムソフトウェアのソリューションについても検討を進めることが推奨されます。以上が2つ目の部分に関しての日本語のサマリーとなります。Now we have reached to the end of our presentation. If you have any question, please kindly send it via chat or email us afterwards. I see no questions in the chat. Maybe some question I was often asked from the Japanese client. Maybe Nils, would you like to comment on that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is it possible to use Excel because some of our clients use Excel solution for the initial Pillar 2 impact calculations, or is it possible to use that kind of way for the further steps?
Yeah, so it is of course possible. Yeah, so there is no regulatory requirement that you're not allowed to use Excel. However, based on our experience, and we've done a lot of Pillar 2 calculation, you certainly you very quickly reach the limit of the functionalities in Excel, because the data set is so big that Excel cannot handle all of the data. Yeah, so what we typically use Excel-based models is for provisioning. To calculate the Pillar 2 provision. However, in terms of the compliance, the data set is, from our experience, too complex to fully handle it in Excel. So our recommendation would be to not use Excel, but any dedicated Pillar 2 technology, or maybe also implemented in the consolidation system or ERP system. However, any solution that is capable of handling a lot of granular data. So that's our practical experience here. So please do not use Excel, use any technology.
Thank you. In the meantime, I also see another question in the QA. I read it out loud. What is your experience with Japanese companies so far? How are the Japanese companies generally prepared for Pillar 2? What kind of preparation should have been done at this stage? Respectively, what should be considered in the next few months? Would you like to comment on that as well? Yes.
Yes, of course. So my experience is so we recommend to have your initial assessment done, yeah, so that you are aware of how your organization is affected by Pillar 2, yeah. So in which countries will you presumably meet the safe harbor? Is there any country where you expect a high top-up tax amount? Yeah, so these are information I would expect that you already have at hand. Yeah, so that is currently we see with a lot of at least the clients we're advising, so that there is some kind of an understanding how the Pillar 2 situation in your organization is. In the next month, you should focus on the technological implementation, basically to be prepared for the compliance burden that will come up, yeah, and it's around 12 months or maybe 14 months, yeah, so that's not a big time, honestly, yeah, for calculating all the data and gathering them, and you maybe want to do some validation. Yeah, so I would recommend to use now the upcoming summer period, at least in Germany, to do some validation of the data, include them in the technology, and also start test runs, dry runs, yeah, to be prepared next year for the compliance burden. So, and that's also currently the stage we see most of our clients basically where we support a lot. We do some test runs, support also German-based calculations. Yeah, so that some of our clients ask us to do some kind of a validation from a German perspective. So I would say that's the current status your organization should have to be well prepared for the upcoming Pillar 2 compliance.
Thank you. I guess I don't see any further question in the chat. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have any question afterwards. We are happy to answer you via email or set up a separate session call. We are also generally happy to receive your feedback on our webcast. And if you have any other topic in mind which we should take care in our next webcast, please let us know. After the session, we will upload the recording to the YouTube. We will also circulate the handout as well as the link of the recording via email. Again, thank you very much for your participation. Have a good day. 本日は Webcast にご参加いただきありがとうございました。良い一日をお過ごしください。